And I believe we are live. Yes, we are. Hold on a second. So welcome to the next installment of Across the Margin, and welcome to the Party Pal Recommends. I'm your host, Michael Shields, and what we're trying to do here is a podcast mashup where we're just trying to give ideas and thoughts about things to get lost in, whether it's books, film, music, art, all kinds of things, just to take our mind away from things going on in the world, and just some quality art out there to enjoy. Today we have a fun episode. It's because we have some great guests today. It's a very music centric episode, and I see no reason to waste any time in bringing out these guests real quick. Thank you for to the Osiris Media Group for hosting these live streams. Go to osirispod.com to check out all the podcasts they have. They have an eclectic and amazing group of podcasts there. They also, this channel, the YouTube channel, it's starting to swell with content at this point, and so it is worth just heading over here and just digging around. We did a great interview for the God, We, and Evan podcast this week with Eric Slick. He's from Dr. Dog. He does his own albums are incredible. I loved that interview. Eric's incredible. Check that one out. Thank you, Chris Thompson, for the art design as always. And so let's get this going. So I have with me two guests. One is an arts and entertainment writer I have the privilege of working with often. Her name is Jennifer Parker. And let's get this going.
Hey.
Jennifer, are you there?
I'm here.
There you are. Hey, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And let's not waste any time. We have a great composer and musician here today. Her name is Danielle Schwob. Her project is DELANILA, and she just released her new album. It's incredible. It's called Overloaded. So let me get her on as well. I think that should do it. Danielle.
Hi.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Congratulations on the new album. I love it. It's really great.
I really appreciate that.
Jennifer, you wrote a wonderful article. It was on At Large about Overloaded. It's such a great read. And so I know the album meant a lot to you. And I was wondering if you would want to lead us off and in the discussion about the album and steer the interview any way you see fit.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Thank you for the nice words. Yeah, it was a pretty easy album to write about. When I was asked to write about it, we were trying so hard to set up an interview, and we were having technical issues, and it made me think, why are we doing this, on the phone when the subject of it was the disconnectedness? And we decided to actually meet in person, which was absolutely delightful. And I really think that it made the article so much easier to write. And it's actually changed the way that I've been doing interviews ever since. So I really
didn't know that.
Right. So I've actually done fewer interviews because not everyone's down with it, but I think it's been worth it. So I just think that the context of it has, it's really made me think a lot about where we're at in our world, and how we have this incredible digital universe, but how it's so easy to get caught up in the context of it. And I think the album just speaks to so much of the gestalt of where we're at, not necessarily just with our current pandemic, but where we've been for the last 20 years. And
yeah,
I just think,
that's what's very interesting too, is so many of these songs speak to what we're going through now, but you wrote it before this all happened, correct?
Yeah, I wrote. I'm not actually even sure exactly when I wrote it, but it was certainly several years back. I mean, I think we finished mixing, I want to say probably finished mixing and mastering the last couple of tracks sometime in beginning of 2019, maybe even 2018. I'm not sure. And it was written a long time ago. I guess during a time in my life where I was working a lot from home by myself, being a composer. That's kind of the name of the game, really. And I don't know, I guess feeling a little stuck and stalled in life. And I wrote about it in this collection of songs, and could never in a million years have envisioned that these would be the release circumstances. It's incredibly strange that everyone in the world is going through the exact, well, everyone who's in a city that's on lockdown is going through the exact same thing that I was going through when I was writing it. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what to make of that. It's
honestly like you're almost seeing into the future in a really, really wild way, and dissecting, you know, what self-isolation means and everything. And I think, Jennifer, you were speaking to it. It's clear you have kind of a frayed or, you know, unique relationship with technology, which makes sense, as that's a theme in throughout the album. So what were you speaking to there when it comes to technology?
Well, specifically, you know, just how, I mean, you can just go down literally the list of tracks, and I mean, everything from I Get Bored to Never Enough to Turning on the TV, and, you know, Fading on My Own, Time Slips Away, Overloaded, Always in My Head. It's been a while since I went outside. I mean, you pick.
I mean, when you listen, it's a little ridiculous.
No, but it's really, really, it's profound and what it speaks to. Because I mean, I have that thing too, where it's, you're obviously speaking to Danielle about, you know, how what is really ridiculous is how we've lost ourselves in our phones instead of, you know, our connection to each other. And that really resonates throughout the whole album.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So sonically, this album rips too. It's not only is there wild, you know, themes that are just so prescient and really connect to what's going on, which is just still so crazy, as we were saying. But you worked, I'd like to speak about your collaborators. You had a great team on this, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, I had kind of a dream team, actually. Yeah. I mean, I co-produced the project with a wonderful veteran producer, David Bottrell, who's done a lot of the big Tool records, Peter Gabriel, Sinead O'Connor, like really anyone who's made great music mostly he's worked with. So he and I co-produced. I also worked with another producer programmer in London who's a friend of mine, Pierce McIntyre, and then had some really fantastic players who were on it. Everyone from Aaron Steele, who's a wonderful drummer, and Jim Orso, another great drummer. Yeah. You can probably list their resumes better than I can, but
Jim Orso from what's he, Hot Chip?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jenny Choi, who's a violinist that I work with in my other life as a concert composer.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
She works with John Zorn a lot. Have you worked with John Zorn as well?
Sort of. So John Zorn and I had a concert of premieres together. He didn't actually come. He wasn't at the event, but so yeah, I worked with Jenny Choi and Vicky Chow and Mike Nicholas, who's a cellist, and Vicky's obviously a piano player. And they premiered a set of my solo pieces, so one for violin, one for cello, and one for piano. And on the same concert, they premiered John Zorn's, I think it was the Aristos Trio. I can't remember the exact name, but it was the one that was the Pulitzer finalist a few years back. So we kind of sort of worked together, but not really. I mean, we worked in the same way that we're talking about, like, missed connections and things like that. So same concert, but we weren't actually working together. So no, we didn't work together, but we almost did.
Yeah, and you guys are in the same orbit for sure.
Yeah. God, and who else was on there? I mean, so many wonderful string players. Andy Lynn, who's a viola player that I work with. Peter Sacken, who's a cellist. I don't know. There were so many of them. And then
you hear it. It's such a full sound. It's cinematic. It's theatric. So you pulled a lot of your influences and everything you've been doing throughout the years into Overload. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. That was really important to me from the get-go. So I've kind of had this dual career for a long time. I've been writing songs since I was a kid and playing guitar and playing in bands. But then I also studied classical composition formally at university. So I've been writing works for the concert hall, for film and TV since then as well. And this project to me, while I think it very clearly lives in the songwriting world, for lack of a better way of distinguishing it from the other one, it was very important to me that I brought in influences from elsewhere, because those were really the artists that I grew up listening to and loving, and the ones that made me want to get into music were the ones that brought something else from outside the genre that they were working in to their work. So big experimental rock bands, or, you know, concert composers that sort of had a maybe pop leanings in some ways.
Yeah, like the radio or something that's genre.
Yeah. Thinking about, like, I mean, the people who made me want to make music early on were artists like Pink Floyd, Radiohead, Tool, Bjork, you know, people who were a little on the experimental side. And I always thought that, you know, in order to be able to do that, you really have to have kind of a broad understanding of music just in general, outside of the genre that you're working in. And so this project to me was an opportunity to bring some of my concert influences and film influences to my songwriting. But it very clearly, it's a rock, pop, alternative, whatever you want to call it. It's that kind of record.
Yeah.
It's rock and pop and alternative, but with extras, I guess.
Yeah. Jennifer, we were talking about, I don't know if I have the exact language in front of me, about how you were describing it, because there was a variety. Oh, wow, I can't find it. Oh, yeah. Is indie rock, contemporary, and multi-instrumental grunge rock. It's just like this blend. Jennifer, when you were writing about, did you find, you know, the album, or just like the genre of music, because there's so much going on, difficult to describe, or just, you know, what was your feelings about all this, you know, everything that Danielle brought to the table in this one album?
Well, I feel like sometimes it's really hard to, you know, pin some artists like into like a box, and, you know, but people want that desperately, or at least algorithms need it. Or people, you know, it's like, if you like this, then you know, should listen to that. And I think, you know, that's one of the things, you know, that's, you know, what the industry has come to expect. And so, for lack of a better thing, it's almost like it's our, you know, duty as, you know, writers to almost like find that spot for people. But you don't want to do people a disservice either by, you know, just saying, you know, by giving them a label that's not necessarily theirs, or one that they want. So that part is the harder part. For me, at least, I don't feel like I'm qualified to tell a person, or to tell the world that this is what a person is, you know. So that part, that was tricky. Mm-hmm. But what I really did appreciate was how, like, when I listened to music, you know, when I listened to Danielle's music, it's like, oh, this is what's right, you know, not just for right now, but I could imagine myself listening to this in 20 years. And that's something that I always have to ask myself when I'm listening to something. Is this like something that's like really fun for now? Or is this something that has some greater, you know, holding power?
Yeah, I think the ideas in it, I mean, they are timeless, and that's brought home by the idea that this was, you know, brought to life before. You know, I was talking to Danielle yesterday, and we were talking about how people are going to think, you know, further on down the line, that this was written, you know, after this or because of this, and it wasn't. So these ideas of isolation and you know, battling with technology, it's, I mean, that's more recent, but it is. These are timeless struggles that we can all relate to. It's very relatable. It's a very relatable album in that way.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think I said this to you yesterday, but it's funny. So a lot of these tracks, obviously they were written quite a while back, and also my album release kept getting delayed for various reasons that I won't bore you all with. But I kept, every time it got pushed back, I kept thinking like, oh my God, is this even going to, will this be relevant in 6 months or a few months longer than that, or will we all have decided that we don't want to be on social media anymore and that we want to get away from these screens? But every time it got pushed back, that proved not to be the case, and it came to be even more relevant, which says disturbing things about, if that trend continues, says disturbing things about where the world might be in 3, 4, 5 months. Yeah, and also some of those songs, I think the title track was actually written, I can't remember exactly what year, but I wrote the verse and the chorus for that really years ago, like when I was in college. And then I got the pre-chorus. I kind of put it away for a while, and then I got the pre-chorus, and then we figured out the production a lot later. But we've been moving towards this technologically integrated point in our, I guess, in our cultural history for a long time, and it's not going away. It's yeah,
absolutely. Jennifer, you had anything else you were curious about with the album?
Yeah, with the album bit, just, you know, one of the things that I just really love about it, and just are curious about it, really, you know, it's also a very visual album. Like, you can, you know, you see it lends itself to so much imagery. And I think that, you know, there's the visual poem that goes along with it. There are videos that go along with it. But even so, like, I think you can just listen to it and like let it kind of wash. And you can, you know, it's also, like I said, an incredibly visual album.
Sonically though too, it's absolutely right. Sonically, I love it's very intense. There's a lot of edge to it, which is great. But then I love you inserted these interludes in between that I could describe as palate cleansers, and that was purposeful to kind of mix up the flow a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those came about for a couple of different reasons. Firstly, I've just always really enjoyed albums that do that. I think that's probably because of perhaps because of my concert background. It's, you know, something that Tool have done as much as Philip Glass and Einstein on the Beach. These, you know, you have these larger sort of intense pieces, and then you break them up with something that
a little breather, kind of like
little self-contained, these little self-contained, discrete musical creations. And so I've always loved listening to records like that, because I'm very much a person who listens to a record from start to finish. I'm not a playlist kind of person. And so I like that. But then also with this project specifically, I hadn't intended on doing that at the beginning, but when I finished up all of the songs and listened to them from start to finish, it was a little bit like being punched in the face over and over again. And I thought, I don't know if I want to do that to an audience. We put them in, but and then beyond that, it was also a way for me to tie the record back to my work as a composer, and maybe sort of hint at some directions that I'll go in the future, I think. I'm interested in integrating strings. I mean, obviously this record has a lot of strings on it, but I think they were arrangements that were built around the song, but I'm interested in for the next one, maybe starting with them being a little bit more baked into the songwriting from an earlier point. So yeah, the interludes and they were also done a lot later than some of the songs. So in some ways they're more representative of what I'm
doing now,
currently doing.
Cool. The video, to touch on one more thing, for It's Been a While Since I've Been Outside, is something you shot in the streets of New York, which is really beautiful, but it's terrifying and haunting too. And it's amazing how it meshed with the song. I mean, so well. So you went out. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. That one, that came about for really just the simple reason that I've been in downtown New York on and off for a very, very long time. And I have found it quite emotional seeing the city as empty as it is. I mean, it's Manhattan. It's one of the busiest places on the planet, and seeing it so sort of depleted and sapped of its energy, it's really been, quite, I found it quite affecting. And I just thought that someone needs to document this. And there have certainly been plenty of photographers and other real filmmakers who've been out shooting the city to make a record of it. But there's something about music that I think captures the emotional reality of a situation in a way that maybe those other art forms don't, because it's so immediate and it's so visceral. And I just happen to have this song that fit the moment perfectly, which is just the weirdest. Just such a weird coincidence and incredibly
might be a wizard of some kind or something. You might be a wizard of some kind or something. It's really travel back in time. Jennifer, did you have any closing thoughts or anything you want to add about the this album? I know you feel the same.
I mean, I thought the serendipity was incredible. You know, just those are words that I'm laughing because those are words that, you know, I had used also when we were talking, you know, a week ago, like when I was talking with Danielle. And so I thought it was pretty funny. I said we could add that to multi-instrumentalist as we could add magician.
No doubt about it.
Predictor of the future. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I love the album. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it. It's a stunning debut. It's completely eerily timely, and it's affecting. So it's really great, and I'm really glad you came on here to talk about it. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and asking good questions. It's nice.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for joining too, Jennifer. And so everyone knows too that we are the next episode of Across the Margin, the podcast. It's I speak to Danielle in you know, we dig deeper into the album, and so that'll be available on Tuesday. So thank you for doing that as well. That was fun.
Sure, both have been great fun.
So thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. All right, I got a couple more things for everyone out there. If anyone out there, let me change my screen. I got pictures we can use for these. If Chris Thompson's head of the arts department Across the Margin, if he's gonna make these, I'm gonna use them. I love them. So look at that. So this week's Friday album release, the new releases were tremendous. I've been waiting for a Friday like this for a while. A lot of albums have been pushed back, but a lot of bombs were dropped this Friday. And above them all, chief amongst them, was Jason Isbell and the 400 unit. I've been waiting on this one. It's called Reunions. And like any of Jason's work, if you've been hurt, if you've hurt somebody, if nostalgia plucks at your heartstrings, if you know, if you've dealt with addiction, if you've loved, if you've lost, any of these things, you might want some tissues around, because it's a deep, it's affecting album. I think he's one of the best storytellers, singer-songwriters there is, and he seems to just get better and better. There's one track that really gets me. It's called Only Children. I think that's the third or fourth. I think it's the fourth song. It's amazing. Last night he performed at the Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville, which was supposed to have its like big opening around this time. I think they're opening up soon anyways, but he performed in an empty Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville, and it was just an amazing performance, and it's still up. It's still online. You could just search Brooklyn Bowl, Jason Isbell. I think it's up for the next few days, hopefully longer. I could not recommend it more. It's just an amazing performance, and this album is just absurd. Speaking of absurd albums, Rose City Band, they put out their album called Summer Long yesterday. This thing is incredible. It's Ripley Johnson's latest project. He was in his other bands. You might know him from Wooden Ships, and he's one half a Moon Duo, and those are two incredible bands. This is kind of like his country rock band. It's a summer album, as the name implies, an ode to the season, his favorite, and it's got Yo La Tango vibes, Grateful Dead vibes, all the vibes, all the feels. It's beautiful. There's a few tracks on it that I kind of want to bury myself within and just wait out this whole thing. It's got some songs that really are soothing. One I want to point to, it's called Floating Out. It really feels like you're like taking a nap on a cloud. I just find it to be the most gorgeous of songs. It's a gorgeous album. It's got a couple ones that are a little more upbeat, but it's beautiful. It's really, I'm going to be listening to this nonstop all summer long. Moses Sumney, he just put out Gray. I haven't digested this album fully because there's a lot to digest. It's a 20-song double album. It's sprawling. It's got a lot of different facets. There's spoken word. There's art pop. There's jazz, if you can describe it as that. There's R&B, if you could even describe it as that. It's all over the map, and it's wild. There's some deep themes in it too, about isolation, living on the margins, because he's always felt different for a variety of reasons. I like I said, I'm still digesting the album, but I believe Moses is a bit of a genius, and I think that he has a masterpiece. I don't know if it's this, but like it's coming at some point. I just think he's that good of an artist. So maybe it's this. I have to dig into it more. But I want to throw him and the album on your radar. That's Moses Sumney. He is awesome. Nick Hakem came out with a new album. It's called Will This Make Me Good? It's like psychedelic R&B and soul. I was such a fan of his 2017 album, Green Twins. It just it's really unique. It's again, describing it as R&B is kind of strange, but it fits in, kind of newer age R&B. But it's, it has some really, really deep themes of depression, anxiety, grief, some things we can all kind of understand right now, self-care, love, but it's all packaged and really smooth and interesting Neil Hakem soundscapes. Again, I just gave that album one spin because it just came out, and I've been with Isabel and Rose City Band almost the last 24 hours, but it sounded great. So, and then this isn't new, but rapper LP, he one of his older albums, it's a classic, Fantastic Damage. I think it's 02. It was just released on streaming services this week. It's incredible. So he's really well known right now for Run the Jewels, but it's really great to have the opportunity now to go back and see how good he's been for so very long. His production is just outstanding. He spits fire. He's incredible. So I found it a lot of fun to go back and revisit that classic as we get ready for what I'm sure is going to be another classic in Run the Jewels 4, which comes out early June, I think the 5th. One more thing I want to mention, I'm going to use another background. So I like theater a lot. It's one of the reasons I love living in New York. It's one of the things I miss in New York right now. But the National Theater is releasing performances on its YouTube channel during this time. And there's one coming up on May 21st that you should be missed. It's Tennessee Williams' The Streetcar Named Desire. I'm sure you've all heard of it. This one is featuring Gillian Anderson as Blanche Dubois. And I had the privilege of seeing it when this performance they're showing was shot in London, but it did come over to Brooklyn. It was at St. Anne's, and I had a chance to see it. The production is really, really unique, but she is absolutely stunning. It's awesome. So I think that's next Friday, the 21st. I don't know days right now, but Vanessa Kirby from The Crown, she's in it. She plays Stella. It's stunning. It's awesome. Even if you're not in the theater, this is one that might be able to get you. It's so cinematically cool. Like I said, the production is so unique. So that's what I got for today. We didn't talk any film or television really. I want to focus in on music and that album and the interview with Danielle. So next time, maybe we'll get into it. I don't know when next time will be, maybe next week, but I'm sure I'll be back around with these recommends. But till then, stay safe, stay low, stay inside when able, wear them masks, and thank you very, very much for joining here today.